What's up, everybody? It's E the Prophet here to make another video. And this video is going to be called, I was the first one to say it. Valentina Shevchenko is the greatest female fighter on the planet and the best pound-for-pound fighter in the UFC. Now, I just want to make two quick announcements. I'm not going to do a UFC 269 review because normally my reviews really don't get a lot of views, so I'm not even going to waste my time doing them anymore unless people like start asking for them. And secondly, I'm about to make a new channel, and this channel is going to be for it's going to be a UFC channel, so I can start putting my UFC videos on this channel instead of having to put them on my Erskine the Prophet channel. I have a name for the channel, and I will be announcing it shortly. Now, on to UFC 269 and why, Valentina Shevchenko, if you didn't think she was the best female fighter before, you pretty much have to think so now. I was gonna, I've said it in numerous videos that Valentina Shevchenko is not only the best female fighter, but I actually had her at number 2 overall as best pound for pound in the UFC behind Cameron Usman. But to be honest, I really think Valentina Shevchenko is an even more complete fighter than Cameron Usman. She just has no flaws in her game at all at 125. I just don't see anybody beating her at 125 for as long as she chooses to be the champion. That's how good she is. And even if Amanda Nunes would have beat Juliana Pena last night, I still would have had Valentina Shevchenko above Amanda Nunes just for the level of competition they faced and the way that Valentina has dominated, everybody at 125. Now, if I just want to talk about the last 2 fights, the 2 championship fights, UFC 269, Dustin Poirier lost to Charles Oliveira in the 3rd round by way of rear naked choke. Now, Amanda Nunes also lost by rear naked choke. Now, I'm going to tell you the difference between the way they lost. Dustin Poirier really has nothing to be ashamed about. In his loss to Charles Oliveira, he did tap, but he didn't tap right away. He did try to fight it for as long as he could. Charles Oliveira is just such a slick technician, submission specialist, that he hit his hand, so Dustin Poirier didn't have a hand to pull down. That's how good Charles is. So Dustin Poirier couldn't fight it, so he had no choice but to either tap or go unconscious. Now, I know a lot of fighters talk about going out on their shields and going unconscious. I don't recommend that. That's a lack of oxygen to the brain when that happens. And I don't think that's good. I think, I know y'all guys want to be heroes, and I have so much respect for y'all fighters, but in my opinion, fuck that going out on your shield shit. Tap. I think it's safer and better for your health to tap than to go unconscious. That's just my opinion. But anyway, Dustin Poirier fought as long as he could. Now, with that said, Amanda Nunes didn't even try to fight the choke. She didn't even try to fight. She just tapped immediately. Julia didn't even have to put any hooks in or anything. She just tapped her immediately. I couldn't believe it. The way Amanda Nunes lost that fight was a goddamn disgrace. And there's nothing against, I love Amanda Nunes, don't get me wrong. I think Valentina Shevchenko is the more complete fighter, but I still love Amanda Nunes, and she was definitely still number 2, in my opinion, in terms of women. And that's only because Valentina Shevchenko is just so fucking good. But Amanda Nunes is also so fucking good. And there's no excuse for her losing that fight last night. It's just not. Julia Pena is not on her level. She shouldn't have been able to beat her. I know anything can happen in the UFC, but if you just look at their skills, if you look at the way Julia Pena was holding her hands and the way Amanda Nunes was holding her hands, they're not even on the same planet in terms of striking, levels of strike. There's no way she should have been able to stand there and go toe-to-toe with Amanda Nunes. And honestly, if Amanda Nunes gets serious, I'm pretty sure she'll come back and obliterate Julia Pena. No disrespect to Julia, but I just don't think she's on the level of Amanda. Congratulations to her for the win, because she went out there and did what she was supposed to do. So I'm definitely going to give her credit for that. But I really don't think that she's going to hold that title long if Amanda Nunes decides to come back and get it. Amanda Nunes, and you could tell, I think she overlooked Julia. I think she didn't take her seriously. I don't think she prepared seriously for this fight, and she didn't follow any game plan whatsoever, and that's why she lost. And I'm gonna say this: Julia Pena showed a lot of heart and a lot of will and a lot of determination. So I'm not taking anything from her. Congratulations to her for winning. I just don't see her holding the belt that long if Amanda decides to come back and get it. You know, just my opinion. You never know. And I'm gonna tell you, in terms of how I have the females ranked now I have Valentina Shevchenko at number 1. I have Rose Namajunas at number 2. Now Amanda Nunes is at number 3 as of last night. Zhang Weili would be number 4, and Joanna Jędrzejczyk would be number 5. That's my top 5. Now, let me say this. If Amanda Nunes decides to rematch Julia Pena and wins, I'm gonna put her back at number 2. If Julia Pena and Amanda Nunes rematches and Julia Pena wins, Amanda Nunes comes out of my top 5 and Julia Pena goes in. But I'm not gonna put Julia Pena in my top 5 until she beats. She would have to beat Amanda Nunes again, so that I know that this wasn't just the fluke that I think it is. You know, so that's my top 5 with women right now. You know, and this is why I've always had a problem with people calling Amanda Nunes the greatest. Because and don't get me wrong, she's an amazing fighter, one of the greatest fighters ever in the UFC. Don't get me wrong. But when it comes to being the greatest, that's a lot of territory. You know, with people like, George St. Pierre, Cameron Usman, Demetrius Johnson, Khabib, John Jones. You know what I'm saying? It's hard to call, even Daniel Cormier, for real. Stipe, it's hard to call her the greatest, especially when you see a performance like what we just saw last night. Anybody can lose. Anybody can lose a fight. But it's ways that you lose. She just looked totally unprepared. Nothing about her, I take that back. In the first round, she looked like a champion. After that, she didn't even look like a champion. She just didn't go out like a champion. I don't know, man. I'm really disappointed in Amanda Nunes' performance. And like I said, I love Amanda Nunes, but I do think she hasn't even defended the 135 title in 2 years. She's been fighting them scrubs at 145. And that's what happens sometimes when you fight level competition. When you're not fighting the best fighters, your skills aren't getting as sharp. And then when you got to go in there against one of the best fighters, you ain't gonna know what to do. Same thing with Dustin. You could say that Dustin fighting Conor McGregor those 2 times was a step down in competition. Nothing against Conor McGregor, but he just hasn't been at his best. You know what I'm saying? He hasn't looked his best. And I think Conor will have a tough time against anybody at the top of the lightweight division at this point, unless he really, really turns it around and takes his training seriously. I love Conor McGregor, nothing against him, but he just hasn't been looking his best. Other than when he beat Donald Cerrone, and everybody was pretty much beating Donald Cerrone. So, it is what it is. But like I said, I've said it in several videos. Valentina Shevchenko is just so good. And she, in my opinion, she just doesn't get the credit that she deserves. I was so fucking sick of hearing about Amanda Nunes being the best when I knew it wasn't true. I knew it wasn't true. I knew Valentina Shevchenko was the better fighter. And you'll never see her. Like even Rose Namajunas when she lost to Jessica Andrade. I love Rose. She's one of my favorites too, but I thought that was a bad lapse in that fight. That was a bad, just uncharacteristic of a champion to have that kind of a mental lapse in a fight. You know what I'm saying? And y'all saw what Valentina Shevchenko did to Jessica Andrade. Dominated her. And so did Zhang Weili for that matter. But then Rose, you just never know what fights. It's hard to do MMA math sometimes with these fights. But I think Valentina Shevchenko is the best. I think even if, like I said, if Amanda Nunes comes back and beats Julia Pena, I will put her back at number 2, right over Rose. And depending on what Rose does in the future, Rose could end up being at number 2 or number 1. You know, I've also said in several of my UFC videos that the fight I want to see more than any other fight is Rose Namajunas versus Valentina Shevchenko for Shevchenko's 125-pound title. I want to see Rose go up and challenge for that title. I think that would be one of the best super fights we've ever seen. People talking about Kayla Harrison and Amanda Nunes, fuck them. The mega fight in the women's division is Valentina Shevchenko versus Rose Namajunas. That's the mega fight. That's the big fight. But you don't even hear nobody talk about it. And once again, I'm the first one to say it. I'm the first for a lot of things. You know what I'm saying? I be on top of this shit. And that's what I'm saying, man. When I make this new UFC channel, I'm just going to dedicate, I'm going to put all my UFC videos on there, just because I've made so many of them, they're starting to clutter up the rest of the channel. And I really got to start, I guess, kind of sticking to one type of video. But I love doing my UFC videos, so I'm just going to make the other channel for it now. I'm working on that right now, so I should have that done in a few days. But anyway, y'all, tell me what y'all think. Am I the only one who thinks Valentina Shevchenko is the best female fighter on the planet and arguably the best pound-for-pound fighter in the UFC period? Look at her skill sets. Look at what she can do striking. Look at what she can do grappling. Look at the level of competition she's faced. Look at how she's handled her competition. I don't see who you could put above Valentina, to be honest. The only one I would have put above her was Demetrius Johnson, but he's gone. He's on one. So, I think he's the greatest of all time. And I definitely think Valentina has been more dominant than John Jones. So, that's my take on it. Tell me what y'all think. Do y'all think she's the best? Do y'all think Amanda Nunes? What do y'all think about Amanda Nunes' loss to Julia Pena? What do y'all think about Dustin Poirier's loss to Charles Oliveira? Because speaking of that, Charles Oliveira is supposed to be fighting Justin Gaethje next. And I'm going to tell y'all, it's funny how Charles Oliveira was an underdog against Dustin Poirier, but I bet you he won't be the underdog against Justin. And to be honest, I don't really see Justin having anything that can beat Charles Oliveira. I think he knows it. I think he knows he had a better chance fighting Dustin than he will have fighting Charles. I mean, if you think about it, Michael Chandler, little fuck that he is. I used to like this dude, but this motherfucker, I'm gonna get to him in a minute. But Charles Oliveira knocked out Michael Chandler in the second round, and Charles Oliveira took Justin, 3 rounds, no stoppage. But speaking of this little piece of shit, Michael Chandler, this little fucking bastard had the nerve to talk shit about Dustin after he lost, saying he would have never went out like that. He always goes out on the shield. Motherfucker, you got knocked the fuck out, you dumbass. How the fuck you gonna come out and act like you did any better than Dustin when you got knocked the fuck out in the second round? I mean, and you had the advantage and still got knocked the fuck out. You got knocked the fuck out. Dustin Poirier got tapped. He actually won the boxing aspect of the fight. So how can you come out and talk any shit about Dustin, you little piece of shit? I can't, man, these fighters are getting on my goddamn nerves, man, with always wanting to talk shit about the other fighters. It's just like, and they sound stupid. It's like, y'all should just shut the fuck up, man. Just stop talking. Let your fighting be your talking. Don't speak with your fists. Talk when you're in an octagon. When you're outside the octagon, just shut up. Because, man, these fighters don't know what the fuck to say out of their mouths. One last point I got to hit on, because this also blew my mind from UFC 269. I was listening to the UFC 269 press conference. They were asking Dana White some questions, and somebody asked him about Israel Adesanya fighting Robert Whittaker, and they were saying that Israel Adesanya said it was a lie and that he wasn't fighting Robert Whittaker. And Dana White evidently knew nothing about this, which, this is getting out of control. Dana White needs to take the reins back from these fighters and, do what he gets paid to do. Run the damn UFC. Because you can't leave it in the hands of the fighters, evidently. I've said this before as well. Evidently, Israel Adesanya doesn't want to fight Robert Whittaker. And, Robert Whittaker is the #1 contender. So how that's going to work, I don't know. But Dana White basically said he didn't give a shit. Now, I'm going to tell you, I love Dana White. And, man, I got so much respect for Dana White. But recently, man, he's starting to kind of rub me the wrong way a little bit as well. Acting like he don't give a shit about being drunk and acting like him. Man, you got, okay, you're the president of the UFC. You have to show some sort of professionalism. I like your whole bad boy persona and talking shit, but you still have to show some sort of professionalism. And you saying you don't give a shit about your champion not defending against the #1 contender was a real bad look, in my opinion. Bad look. That was the worst look of that whole press conference. You saying you don't give a shit whether or not your middleweight champion fights the #1 contender. That bothered me a lot. So let me say this. Let me just give him some advice and the rest of the people at the UFC some advice. If Israel Adesanya doesn't fight Robert Whittaker, then whoever Robert Whittaker fights, that fight should be for an interim title. I'm not a big fan of the interim titles, to be honest. But in this case, if Israel Adesanya won't fight the #1 contender, then Robert Whittaker's next fight should be for an interim title. And in that way, they can also make it a main event somewhere and, on the UFC card, and that'll be a good thing. Just give him, so that way Israel Adesanya got to fight. He's going to have no choice but to fight him at that point. If Robert Whittaker's the interim champion, and that'll fix that shit. They did it for Cyril Gane. They can definitely do it for a former champion and Robert Whittaker. I feel he deserves it. It shouldn't even have to come to this. And the reason why it's coming to this, because once again, these fighters are fucking shit up. I love the fighters, but man, business should not be left in their hands. The only thing these fighters should do is fight. That's all they need to worry about doing. Here's your opponent. Go fight him. Go prepare for him and go fight him. All this picking and choosing fighters I'm telling you, it's going to hurt the UFC. The whole reason the UFC was kicking boxing's ass for so many years is because boxing wasn't giving us the fights we wanted to see, and the UFC was giving us the fights we wanted to see. So if the UFC starts letting the fighters pick and choose the fights, and we don't get to see the fights we want to see, what do you think is going to happen to the UFC? That's why it's important for Dana White to take control of this shit and get this shit back, take the reins back over. And the fighters should be told who they're fighting, not allowed to pick their fights. This whole picking a fight shit is getting out of control, for real. Another video I'm gonna do is about the weight cutting. The weight cutting is also out of fucking control. When I see these big ass fighters in these weight classes, it really rubs me the wrong way. To me, that is no different than taking a performance enhancing drug. It's an unfair advantage. They got weight classes for a reason, to keep the fighters at similar sizes when they fight. You shouldn't have a David versus Goliath situation in none of these weight classes, with the exception of maybe heavyweight, where you might have 20, 30, 40 pound differences in heavyweight. But heavyweight is the only weight you should really see that in. You shouldn't see that in any of these other weight classes. You know what I'm saying? Dan Hangman Hooker talking about going down to 145. I'm like, what the fuck? How? No. This motherfucker's big as shit for lightweight. How the fuck is he going to go down to 145? If you ask me, Max Holloway is too big for 145. You know what I'm saying? Like, what? It just really makes me mad when these guys are oversized in the division, because, like I said, to me, it's an unfair advantage. Like I said, I'm going to be doing a video about that pretty soon. But other than that, y'all, please like the video. Please tell me what you thought. Do you agree? Is Valentina Shevchenko, as good as what I say she is, or am I giving her too much credit? Please leave me your opinions. I would love to know your thoughts on it. Please subscribe to the channel. Please share the video if you like. I love y'all. Thank you for watching the video. Everybody stay safe, stay strong, stay healthy. Peace.